Welcome to the Ari Hoffman Show on Talk Radio 570 KVI, your home for the politically homeless, streaming live at KVI.com and the KVI app. If you want to be part of the most dangerous show on the airwaves, call or text the Warrior Injury Law Studio line at 206-421-5757. That's 206-421-5757. Coming up this hour, Katie Wilson wants you to fund her endorsers. And mainstream media is turning on the Democrats regarding the shutdown. But before we get to any of that, time for your daily dose of adrenaline.
You want me to stick this into my heart? Are you f***ing nuts?
A lot of people say we need a new political party. They say we've had it with the GOP, we've had it with the Democrats, and some people have actually done something about that. I would argue that MAGA now runs the GOP. I would say the GOP looks nothing like what it looked like when I first started taking an interest in politics. Parties change. Now, can you still see little pieces of it here and there? Absolutely. But I would argue that MAGA has made the Republican Party a bigger tent. Now, some of you may have said, Ari, it's always been this way, just people are finally noticing. Fine. I will grant you that. It seems like it's not, the grand old party anymore, for those of you who don't know what GOP stands for, but it seems more like it's the young fun party. That's at least how we like to think about it, especially when you see Turning Point USA. You've got J.D. Vance and Erica Kirk speaking at Ole Miss today, and you got the fire on the stage. When I saw the fire on the stage for Charlie Kirk's memorial service, I said, these guys even know how to make a memorial service look like fun. And that's a horrible way to phrase it, but it makes it look like it's engaging and exciting and you want to be part of it, and inspirational would probably be the better way to say it.
Well, as my take was more like, they only know how to do an event one way. It's like, we had all this pyro, we may as well use it.
Right.
We've got the stage that we're using at AmFest. We have all this stuff, and this is the only stuff we have, so we may as well use it.
That's kind of how it came across.
It's like if you go to an AC/DC concert and they don't roll the cannons out or something. It's like, you've got it. You may as well use it.
Yeah, but I'll say it worked. It worked because everybody goes, that was an amazing event. Even to watch on TV, it was an incredible event. The optics worked.
I would like to put this out there when Big Mike's time comes at the end. I would like pyro as well.
No pyro for you. I'm going to have the voice of Optimus Prime talking about you. You can get Peter Cullen to do that. I know he's not alive anymore, but they have AI versions of that. If you can get Darth Vader's voice and you can get all the Obi-Wan voices and you can do all that, I'm sure we could get a Peter Cullen to give your obituary.
I'll stop you right there. Mr. Cullen is still very much alive.
Oh, I thought he was dead.
No.
Shows what I know.
He's very, very old, but he's still very, very alive.
I apologize, sir.
For now.
The last person I did that to was the guy who played Q in James Bond. I'm like, that dude's dead, right? Yeah. Well, then he was after that. My bad. Sorry, Peter Cullen. That's totally my bad. I killed Q. Anyway, getting back to the thing at hand here. Parties change. And I would argue now that the GOP is seen as more fun, more open by a lot of people who looked at it as a bunch of old white guys. That just ain't the case. The Democrats keep trying to paint it that way, but that just ain't the case. What's happening in the Democrat Party? Well, the truth is the Democrat Party hasn't been the Democrat Party in years. It's moved more and more left. Somebody asked me a long time ago what I thought the difference between the Republicans and the Democrats were. And I said, the Republicans are more your dad, right? They're more, we're tough on national defense, and we want to make sure that we punish the criminals, and we don't want to pay a lot in taxes, and that's the Republican Party. And meanwhile, the Democrat Party is your mom. We want to take care of you. Yeah, we want you to be safe, but we want to take care of you and make sure you got all your food and make sure everything you got, the traditional nuclear family structure. That was the difference. Well, now it's the Democrat Party is, there's no such thing as a mom. There's no such thing as a dad. There's no such thing as a woman. There's no such thing as a man. You don't like me, you're racist. It's been that way for a while now. But what's crazy to me is when people try to explain and say, Ari, there's a difference between Democrats and Democratic Socialists. I say, really? What's the difference? Famed political correspondent Vanilla Ice is going to break it down for us right now.
It's not the same. Ours goes ding, 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 diggy, ding, ding. Ding, 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 diggy, ding, ding. Ding, 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 ding. That's the way theirs goes. Ours goes ding, 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 diggy, ding, ding. Ding, 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 diggy, ding, ding. That little bitty change. It's not the same.
They're exactly the same. Exactly the same. I remember there was a Saturday Night Live years ago when Bernie Sanders was running for president in 2016, and they had Larry David playing Bernie Sanders, and they had Bernie Sanders and Bernie Sanders in a skit. And the Larry David version of Bernie Sanders said, oh, we're socialists. And then Bernie Sanders goes, no, we're democratic socialists. What's the difference? There's no difference. It's a marketing ploy. It is a marketing ploy. It is full on socialism. Don't believe me? Canary Mission released a new video overnight, or I should say yesterday. Canary Mission does a lot of great activist work, watchdog work, tracking a whole bunch of the Hamasnik types, and they're very concerned about what they're seeing with the Democratic Socialists of America. They released this video where the people running the Democratic Socialists of America are admitting they want to destroy the Democrat Party. Now, you're going to hear a lot of voices, and because we don't do video on the show, you're not going to see it. I mean, you can see my beautiful face on the video over on Facebook, X, Rumble, and YouTube, but you're not going to see this video. If you were watching this video, what you would see is the people who are talking are the head of DSA in Seattle, the head of DSA in Houston, the head of DSA in New York, the head of DSA across the country. All the voices you are hearing, these are all people who are leadership of the Democratic Socialists of America.
It's no secret that the Democratic Socialists of America hate the Democratic Party.
I think we're all on the same page that we hate the Democratic Party.
Democratic Party is not really our friend. It isn't.
So why are the DSA such major players in the Democratic Party? This odd relationship can be understood with the cuckoo analogy. In nature, the cuckoo survives by trickery. It lays its egg in another bird's nest. The unsuspecting parents raise the imposter as their own until the cuckoo grows strong enough to push the true chicks out. The DSA is the cuckoo inside the Democratic Party.
DSA is not the Democratic Party.
We must separate ourselves from the toxic Democratic Party.
We can put forward a clear, aggressive, principled strategy that pushes back against the Democratic leadership and the Democratic Party as a whole.
DSA candidates run as Democrats in safe blue districts. They slip through low turnout primaries. And once inside, they use the Democratic label as camouflage while advancing an extremist anti-American agenda far beyond the party's mainstream.
I don't agree with the Democratic Party, but it's a great tool.
The Democratic is a tool that we use.
Once in office, DSA candidates take orders from DSA's internal enforcers and working groups. City halls and state houses start running as socialist machines controlled by the organization, not the Democratic Party, and certainly not voters.
They have to have a connection with DSA's internal politics, and they have to be committed to the eventual goal of building a separate entity from the Democrats.
DSA are revolutionaries, and the Democrats are their first victims. And in city after city, DSA victories prove their plan works.
I think that the model that we used in New York is 100% replicatable.
And just like the cuckoo, once the DSA grows strong, it pushes the true Democrats out, hollowing the party from within,
building towards political independence and tearing apart the Democratic Party.
The DSA is not here to strengthen the Democratic Party. It is here to consume it.
We're not here to make the Democrats a little bit better. We're here to actually enact socialism. And socialism is not just better capitalism. It's overthrowing the entire capitalist state.
It's our duty, DSA, to cultivate this power.
The cuckoo is in the nest, and New York City is poised to elect not a Democrat, but Zohran Mamdani, an extremist within the DSA.
We understand that winning an election is not an end. It is a means to an end.
The most important thing that we can do is take that empire down from within.
Ultimately to overthrow our own empire.
We need a movement that can drive a stake through the heart of the empire.
We need to orient ourselves towards insurrection.
Does that sound like they're hiding the ball at all? It sounds like they're very clear about what they're doing. All it took was Canary Mission to put all that together into one clip so you could see it all for yourselves. But I know what you were thinking while driving in your car, while sitting in your home, while listening on your phone. I know what you were thinking when you were just listening to that. Sounds a lot like Kshama Sawant, doesn't it? Somebody who was in office, elected in office, endorsed by the Democrat parties around here, and was very, 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 very honest about the fact that she was working for the socialist alternative, for the Democratic Socialists of America, for all these radical socialist groups. You know, I saw the DSA questionnaire when I was running for office, and I've seen it many times since. What happens is when you're running for office and you're looking for endorsements, if an organization doesn't know you, you can ask them for their endorsement questionnaire. And if you pass the questionnaire, they'll take you to an interview. And if you pass the interview and you have no skeletons in your closet and they don't have a candidate they like just because they like them, they'll endorse you. Their questionnaire is one of the craziest things I've ever seen. Do you support defunding the police? Do you hate the state of Israel? Even if it's, do you oppose the occupation? It's all this stuff that is basically going against what modern America looks like. What do they have to do with Israel and a city council? Nothing. But they have all these questions that are, do you support the means of production being taken over by the government? Communism, socialism. It's all in there. It's all in their endorsement questionnaire. These guys have never hidden the ball on who they are. The DSA has been vocal about its plans since at least June of 2016. I found a strategy document entitled Resistance Rising, Socialist Strategy in the Age of Political Revolution. The document states under the section on electoral organizing, quote, the nature of our electoral activism will vary based on local political conditions, but it will include supporting progressive and socialist candidates running for office, usually in Democratic primaries or as Democrats in general elections. The organization intends to forge larger socialist electoral coalitions, both within and outside the Democratic Party, and ultimately to create a majoritarian electoral coalition in support of socialist political and economic reforms. Somebody sent me the campaign finance records of Zoran Mamdani's campaign. They have spent nearly $30,000 to the DSA for canvassing, funding the same organization that seeks to dismantle the party he is representing in the primary. Let's not forget, he's not the Democratic Socialist nominee for New York. He's the Democratic Party's nominee. They have made it very, very clear they want to destroy the Democratic Party, and the Democrats are so desperate to hold on to power, they're going along with these people who want to destroy their party. This was Sunday night, where thousands of people showed up to hear Bernie Sanders, AOC, and Zoran Mamdani in Queens, New York. That's not TSA. They're not chanting for the people checking your bags at the airport. They're chanting DSA for the Democratic Socialists of America. That's what they're chanting. And you have people who went there, like Kathy Hochul, the governor of New York, who's not a socialist, though she believes in socialist policies, so desperate to get reelected that she goes there to try and court them, even though they're booing her, even though they hate her. That's how desperate she is to stay the governor of New York. She's not going to have to just deal with Elise Stefanik. She's going to have to deal with a far left challenger as well. That's how desperate they are to hold into power, that they've let the cuckoo in the nest. And we know the left is far left cuckoo. That's a great analogy, by the way. Many of Mamdani's top campaign staffers come directly from DSA, including his campaign manager, El Bissard Church, a DSA organizer. Field director Tasha Van Oken, who's also affiliated with DSA, was profiled in City and State magazine for building a 50,000-strong volunteer army from socialist and activist circles. Democrats who once condemned DSA's actions are now endorsing its candidates. Do you remember on October 7th, there was a rally in Manhattan in Times Square for Hamas against Israel? Hamas was still killing people in Israel while this was going on. It was organized by the DSA. Activists burned Israeli flags, waved swastikas while shouting in support of the resistance. At the time, Hakeem Jeffries condemned it. Kathy Hochul condemned it. Jerry Nadler condemned it. And now all of them are backing Zoran Mamdani. The same people. Zoran Mamdani was probably at that thing because that's who he was organizing with. Pramila Jayapal, Bernie Sanders, AOC, Elizabeth Warren. Now they're all backing Zoran Mamdani. Some of them, like Jayapal, like Rashida Tlaib, like Ilhan Omar, this is what they believed in the whole time. But this is how you destroy America from within. Now, Andrew Cuomo is desperate to get elected. But even a broken clock is right twice a day. And he recognizes what's going on inside the Democratic Party. This is what he told Fox News.
The truth is there's a quiet civil war going on in the Democratic Party right now. You have an extreme left, radical left. Bernie Sanders, AOC, Mamdani is just the banner carrier for that movement. versus the mainstream moderate Democrats. They now call me moderate. They used to call me liberal. Now I'm a moderate because the whole party shifted. And that's what this election is about. It is that civil war. I believe that far left will destroy the Democratic Party. I believe it will destroy the Democratic Party nationwide if that far left becomes dominant.
I believe it's already happening. I think one of the reasons the Republicans won the election is because the left had gotten so crazy with this nonsense that a lot of the normies said, I'm not voting for them. I'm going to vote for Trump. At least I know what I'm getting with Donald Trump. When he talks about a civil war, this has come up before. I always say, I'm glad my side's the one with the guns. But you know what? The truth is, we're not the only ones who buy guns. You know what the John Brown Gun Club is? They're basically Antifa's guns. The people you saw wandering around the autonomous zone and such. There are people on the left who have guns. There are a lot of people on the left with guns. Podcaster Jennifer Welch on Monday, she's a progressive podcaster with a big audience, is literally saying that people need in the Democrat Party to jump on board with calling for conservatives to be killed. I apologize for the language in advance.
Finally, if you think this Zoran thing is happening just in New York and you think people are waking up only in New York City, you're mistaken. Look at this clip of a wine mom at the No Kings March. Play the clip.
Whatever his name was?
Charlie Kirk, ma'am?
Yeah, him is horrible. Horrible.
Charlie Kirk is horrible?
Yes, I'm glad he's not here.
You're glad he's dead?
Yes.
Why would you say something like that, ma'am?
Because he was horrible on the campuses, the college campuses. Horrible person.
You know what? I do the exact same thing.
Well,
would you be glad if I would die?
Maybe. I'd have to think about it.
You should be ashamed of yourself.
You should be ashamed of yourself.
Your friend just said she'd be happy if I died.
I think we need to...
So listen up, Democratic establishment. You can either jump on board with this or we're coming after you in the same way that we come after MAGA. Period. Stop taking AIPAC money. Go on an I'm sorry I took AIPAC money atonement tour if you want to stay in power. Stop missing out on these big rallies. Hakeem and Chuck should have been front and center introducing the next mayor of New York City, but no, they wouldn't show up because they're p***s. They're p***s that are beholden to the same corporations that that helped Donald Trump get elected. And this is just an embarrassment. Kudos to Bernie, to AOC, to Zoran. And that woman out in somewhere middle America saying, Charlie Kirk, he was a racist, he was a piece of shit. There are so many more of us than there are of them. And these Democrats that continue to play patty cake with corporations and lobbyists, nobody wants that. Nobody wants you. We want politicians to speak freely and look at what the benefit is.
That's what they want. They want political violence. They want to overthrow the Democratic Party. Right now, I'm going to talk to our Democrat listeners because I know you're out there and I know you disagree with me a lot. Are you on board with this? Are you on board with the Democratic Socialists of America? I bet if you're listening to this show, you're not. I bet you're not. I bet you're a common sense person who says, I like Ari Hoffman because I like the local stuff. And when he talks about Trump, I listen until I can't, right? Is that a good assessment? I know some of my Democrat friends have told me that, by the way. They say, Ari, we love your show. We listen until we can't. It's when you start talking about Trump. Guys, there's more that you and I agree on. And I'm not telling you have to vote for Trump for tomorrow. But you realize how far the Democrat Party has gone? Anybody I know who identifies as an independent, they're just trying to say they're not a Democrat. I don't know anybody else who does that. I don't know any actual independent. I've never met an actual independent. But I'll tell you this, my friends. The Democrat Party isn't the Democrat Party. And for that matter, the Republican Party isn't the Republican Party anymore. But continuing to say you're a Democrat, when the Democratic Socialists have taken over your party, just look at Seattle. Who do we have around here? Pramila Jayapal. Kshama Sawant's running for office. Teresa Mosqueda. These are all people who openly identify as members of the Democratic Socialists. Katie Wilson. Are you surprised by any of this? This is the game plan, and it's been tried here in Seattle. It's been tried in King County. It's been tried here in Washington State, and it has worked. And it has worked. Realize now, if you vote for somebody other than the Democrat, you're voting against the Democratic Socialists of America. And that's what you need to do if you want to keep this state, this city, this county, this country on track. Because they have made no secret about the fact that they want to destroy the empire. And I'm not talking about the one in Star Wars with Darth Vader and the Emperor. They consider the empire the United States of America. Do you want to vote to destroy the United States of America? Because if so, keep voting for DSA, because that's exactly what they want. But if you've had enough and you say, I want a little bit more normal in my life, it's time to stop voting blue no matter who. Because odds are you're going to end up with a lot of these Democratic socialists, and they ain't actually blue. They're red, and not Republican red, commie red. Lots more to discuss as the show continues, my friends. When we come back, speaking of the Democratic Socialists of America and communists, Katie Wilson now wants you to pay your tax dollars to keep her endorsers in business. We'll tell you what's going on when we come back. You're listening to the Ari Hoffman Show on Talk Radio 570 KVI. Not every tip we get pans out, but sometimes tips that don't pan out lead you to go down other rabbit holes and you find something else out. So somebody gave us a tip about Katie Wilson's campaign that I was investigating last night through the PDC, the Ethics Commission, where people file all their financial paperwork. And though I didn't find what I was looking for, I found something else. And I replied to my source. I'm like, yo, you're not going to believe what I found. Now, we covered a while ago that Seattle's socialist mayoral candidate Katie Wilson has raised concerns because what she wants to do is tax you with property taxes, capital gains taxes, to subsidize far-left failing media outlets that, turns out, endorsed her and employ her. Recently, she was on the Mostly Economics podcast. She promoted a proposal she called News Notes, a taxpayer-funded voucher program that would give every Seattle resident $100 to donate to local outlets to save failing outlets from the free market. So basically, she is taking the failed democracy voucher program, which has failed by every single metric around here, where they hit you with property taxes so they can give you vouchers to give to political candidates, and it's gotten less popular over time. They have that, and she wants to do that for media. You know, lady, the free market already took care of these outlets. If people wanted them, they'd be in better shape. You want an example? Let's do this. NPR. NPR here in Seattle, people like the NPR in Seattle. So when the government cut the funding for them, they said, we're going to up our membership. We're going to up our subscriptions, and it's doing just fine. The outlet she's talking about, The Stranger, The Urbanist, they're glorified blogs at this point because they had to lay off so much staff and stop printing. So, turns out Katie Wilson was working for some of these outlets. So magically, they want to endorse her because they want this program to go into effect. She worked for them. You think they don't discuss this in the newsroom? Hey, guys, you know what? I got this idea. And when I run for office, I'm going to do this. So she endorses them in the primary. Then this comes out later. Of course. She specifically named in this podcast The Urbanist, Publicola, that's Erica Barnett, and South Seattle Emerald. These are the same ones that routinely promote her political agenda. Many of them have endorsed her. Some have even paid her. The Seattle Stranger, in her public disclosure, she listed that she works for them as a columnist, earning under $30,000 a year. Same thing with Publicola, earning under $30,000 a year. Same thing with The Urbanist. Now, the way I say why it's under $30,000 a year, the categories are under 30, under 60, under 90. It goes up in 30s when you file these things. She could be making $29,000 a year from each of these. That's a pretty okay living, on top of whatever she's getting from the Transit Riders Union. Still, her husband's not working, which we did that yesterday. Wilson did not mention subsidizing mainstream or conservative media outlets. She previously threatened to boycott a Como News mayoral debate unless parent company Sinclair Broadcast Group kept Jimmy Kimmel on air after the late-night host falsely claimed Charlie Kirk was assassinated by a right-wing activist. She is trying to funnel money to her left-wing buddies. And that is not independent media. That is government-sponsored, government-controlled media. Because why would those outlets ever report anything bad about Katie Wilson or the Seattle government if they're getting money from them? We had this exact same complaint down in Olympia when they started offering grants for smaller outlets to go cover what's going on in the Washington state legislature. And they've got these paid interns running around writing puff pieces based on press releases to keep the people who fund them happy. This is how the grift works. After the election, we'll pay you off. Just write nice things about us. This is how the grift works. And your tax dollars will now be funding outlets like The Stranger, The Urbanist, the South Seattle Emerald. Mike, what do you think would happen if we applied for those grants? You think there's any way in hell they'd give them to us? You're not a journalist. There's no way they would do it, right? No way.
How about no?
Exactly. Dr. Evil knows. He knows these things. There's no way in hell they'd ever do that. We know what this is. This is about paying off our buddies. Oh, you endorsed me in the election. I work for you. Now I'm going to funnel this money towards you guys. If you guys wanted to compete, you should have competed in the free market. And we've already seen what the free market did to you. So now this socialist is trying to keep them alive on life support by funding them with your taxpayer dollars. Speaking of our taxpayer dollars, is the government ever going to reopen? Looks like the Democrats are losing that battle when even the mainstream media is turning on them. We'll have that awesome audio of them absolutely ripping into Democrats when we come back. You're listening to the Ari Hoffman Show on Talk Radio 570 KVI. You know the scene in Footloose when Ren McCormick is challenged to a game of chicken with the tractors? And he's heading right towards the bad guy in the truck. I don't remember what, the guy who beats up his girlfriend, right? And they're heading towards each other. And it's basically who's going to turn first, and Ren McCormick's shoelace gets caught on the thing. You know what? Maybe that's not the best analogy. You know why? Because he wanted to jump off the tractor and he couldn't because his shoelace was caught. All right, how about the movie Gleaming the Cube? with Christian Slater. Mike's like, yeah, that's a throwback. When you have Tony Hawk driving the Pizza Hut delivery truck towards the bad guys in the stolen police car. And the camera zooms in on the truck, and it's going. And then it zooms in on the police car where the random dude is driving the thing. And then it zooms in on Tony Hawk, and he's solid. He's not budging. And then the police car flips a U-ey and runs away. That's what we're watching right now with the Democratic shutdown. Because what's happening is the Democrats are losing in the polls. As we discussed yesterday, the polls are going down for the Democrats, and now they've lost the media. Man, I was loving flipping between channels this morning because all you were seeing were Democrats getting beaten up on TV by the media about the shutdown. Why don't you just reopen the government? Why don't you just reopen the government? And it wasn't Fox News, and it wasn't Newsmax. This was Senator Peter Welch getting called out on CNBC.
Democrat, maybe others would follow you.
You know, I'm not there yet because we have had literally, Joe, no discussion whatsoever about how we're going to deal with these spikes in premiums.
This is the right way to do it, Senator? But by people not getting paychecks at the TSA, this is extortion. You think this is the right way to do it? In your conscience, you think it's the right way to do it? I never thought I'd say that, Andrew, that it, as a human being, he always says that. As a human being, you think this is the right thing to do? That's your line.
Well, that's why Senator Hawley and have our bill to make sure that folks get the nutrition that they absolutely need is why the president is paying the troops.
Okay, exactly right. The Republicans have proposed multiple bills to make sure people get paid, and the Democrats continue voting against them and continue voting against them. CNBC is not my little black book of the right-wing media conspiracy. Most definitely not. By the way, Jake Tapper was calling out Representative Melanie Stansbury. That's how bad this is getting.
Should the Democratic senators from New Mexico, your home state, vote to open the government so that these SNAP funds are not at risk?
Let me be clear. The administration is choosing to starve American children with money that they already have appropriated.
I'm not applauding
their
tactics.
By the White House.
Well,
this is a choice by the White House.
This is also,
Congresswoman,
this is also a choice by Senate Democrats to not vote to open the government. Yes, it is. I understand why they're doing it. They're doing it because they want Medicaid funds restored. They're doing it because they want Obamacare premiums to be extended past the end of the year. I understand the reasoning.
Sir, let me just be clear. The money for contingency plans is sitting there. That is why the states are suing. The White House is withholding funds from
2 to 3 weeks worth of
have
SNAP funds.
Food.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, it may not be a big deal to you, but let me tell you that for the grandparents, for grandparents
it is a big deal
that
to me.
literally are feeding their children,
my point is that it's a short-term
solution. In those accounts,
it's
it
a short-term.
matter. At the end of the day, people need to be able to feed their families, and Saturday is when those funds run out.
If you feel so
and
strongly,
we are fighting
Congresswoman,
to get
why
that
not
funding.
ask the Senate Democrats from New Mexico to vote to open the government so that the SNAP funds...
Sir, I am here in the House of Representatives. It is shut down. I am fighting to get the government reopened. I am fighting to get funding put back into SNAP that is already existent, and I am fighting for the American people. I am here. But show me a single Republican that is here. Not a single one is here to make sure that Americans are fed on Saturday. That is why I am here.
Okay, that's nonsense. The Republicans are there because they're right down the hall doing interviews with Fox or whoever else. But Jake Tapper, when you've lost CNN, when you've lost CNBC, you have lost the battle. In fact, Mike Johnson just destroyed the Democrats today, showing how this is all their fault and all things Republicans have tried to do to pay everybody.
Democrats are still out trying to convince you that this is somehow Republicans' fault. But the facts are the facts, and the American people can see that very clearly. They see the truth. We brought you a handy scorecard here so you can, follow the votes. I mean, this is very simple. The votes to pay the troops and federal workers and continue SNAP benefits and get air traffic controllers and Border Patrol agents paid. This is the vote tally. You see the dates here. The House did our work back on September 19th, and we voted, Republicans voted yes. Democrats voted no on all those things. And the Senate has now done it an additional 13 times. These are the votes. No one can say that this is in any way the fault of Republicans. We have a clean, simple bill, and everybody knows it. House and Senate Democrats are openly admitting that this is their shutdown. You have seen the highlight reel of all of them stumbling into admitting that. And yet they're also incoherently claiming that the shutdown is somehow on the fault of the other party. And the people aren't buying it. And that's why the polling continues to show that the approval of Republicans in Congress is rising with each passing day. And the Democrats, at the same time, Democrats in Congress have the lowest approval rating they have ever had since polling began, since recorded polling began on these metrics.
He's exactly right. He's exactly right. Then, this is great. There's even Democrats who are saying reopen the government. This is Representative Gottheimer from New Jersey saying he wants to reopen the government. This is how bad it's gotten.
Well, I think we actually, it doesn't solve the health insurance problem, the premium problem. I think what's a very fair deal and is open the government and let's just vote on extending these premiums for a year or more. Well, I don't understand what's so hard about that. And by the way, Senator Thune has offered that, I believe. He said we'll have he offered up a vote that we can actually have a vote on extending these premiums. I think when put to it, you're going to see Democrat and Republicans, senators and congressmen and women want to vote for that. Why would you not want to vote to extend help with these tax credits, get premiums down for people? People are getting hurt right now in their pocketbooks. Yep. They're really need help. So why not give them some help?
All right,
This is a Democrat, and he's advocating for democratic principles, but he's saying we can't do any of this if the government is shut down. So why don't members of my own party, because Senator John Thune, the Senate Majority Leader, has even offered to do that. When you've lost your own party, and by that I mean the media, not Representative Gottheimer, when you've lost your own party, now you're in big trouble. The Democrats have lost. It's just a question of when they're going to cave. Mike, you want to do under-over bets? I think they're going to do it the day after the election, depending on what the election results are, because here's what's going to happen. Let's say they lose everything. They're just going to quietly disappear into that bush like Homer Simpson. If Mamdani and Katie Wilson, all those guys win, they're going to say, you're going to see Chuck Schumer. The people have spoken. The people have spoken and said they want more of this, so we're going to reopen the government so we can work with all the Democrats who just got elected. Stamp the date and time. That's exactly what is going to happen. When we come back, my friends, a voice from the past who used to be a TV media pundit for the left comes back just to call Republicans names, which is beyond crazy. He's calling Megyn Kelly trans. We'll have the details for you when we come back. You're listening to The Ari Hoffman Show on Talk Radio 570 KVI. We're all adults here, right? I think we can discuss this subject like adults. There are objectively good-looking people. There are objectively not good-looking people. Objectively, when somebody decides, hey, I want to change my gender, it doesn't look right. It never does. You're not fooling anybody. It's your own hang-up. I get that, but you're not fooling anybody. There are objectively good-looking people, and something that the normies got tired of was a lot of people on magazine covers who the left is like, oh, this is beautiful, this is beauty. And everybody else is looking at it and going, do you have eyes? Are you kidding me? So, Don Lemon.
Now, that's a name I've not heard in a long time. A long time.
That's right. Don Lemon is on some podcast I never heard of. And while he's on this podcast, he says that Megyn Kelly looks trans? Okay, can we back up a second here? I may have my political disagreements with Megyn Kelly and stuff, but objectively, Megyn Kelly is good looking. What are you talking about? Aside from that, this makes Fake News Friday look like nothing the way these guys are talking about Megyn Kelly, which is pretty awful. Give a listen.
Is Megyn Kelly chopped?
I don't know what that means. I don't know what is chopped. I've heard it, but I don't know what that means. What does chopped mean?
She's going to get mad at me, dude. I don't know if I want this here.
What does chopped mean?
Chopped means, like, not hot.
Yeah, she's chopped. I don't know, the whole MAGA look.
It's all the MAGA ladies.
Too
they
much.
Look. Kind of looks like a Barbie doll covered in, like, WD-40.
I think she looks trans.
I'm sorry, what? Objectively speaking, whether you agree or disagree with the politics, what are you talking about? Look, if you look at the different networks for a second, let's just look at the networks for a minute, okay? Let's see. Over on Fox, you've got Kayleigh McEnany, and over on MSNBC, you've got Rachel Maddow. Can we be real about this for a second? It's not the blonde thing. It's just what's objectively good looking, what's not. You guys really want to have this conversation and say that the people on the right aren't good looking? This is how low we have sunk. This is what we are doing. We're mad at somebody's political opinion, so we're going to criticize their looks. You know, I took debate. I took speech classes. And you know what they teach you when you lose your temper, when you start calling people's names, when you start personally attacking them? You have lost the argument because you have no arguments at all, and that's what you resort to. I forgot Don Lemon was even in existence anymore. He's so irrelevant. We go to the Warrior Injury Law studio line, take a call from Mario and Kent. Mario, what's up, man?
Hey, Ari, how you doing, man? You look like and you sound much better than when I spoke to you yesterday, so that's a good thing that at least you went outside and laughed.
Thank you. Appreciate that. Yeah.
But I wanted to tell you, my good friend, though, I hope that Democrats continue with this charade, because I think that if they continue with this charade, they will lose 40 to 50 seats next year easily. And the thing that I will draw you an analogy with, here it is. You're a team, you just finished getting your butt whipped in a game, and you don't change your game plan, for the next game, and you end up getting your butt whipped again, and then again and again and again until somebody finally says, hey, coach, we need to change the game plan. It's not working.
Exactly. Exactly. By the way, Dan Smith says, you know what he calls it? He says it's sour lemons. Oh, very good. I like that one. Very, very good.
Hey, and I just wanted to make you laugh one thing, because I told Mike about this, okay? And this is something that has stuck with me since my high school physics teacher back in the late 70s, okay? He says, if you take the common sense IQ of people who vote blindly, and these are the Democrats, it equals negative 1.2.
That's so true. Mario, appreciate the sense of humor. Appreciate the call. Appreciate you being part of the show. You want to be part of the show, you give us a call or text at 206-421-5757. That's 206-421-5757. When we come back, my friends, UW officially announces that, yes, those COVID closures of schools were a disaster. In other news, water still wet. We'll tell you all about this research study when we come back. You're listening to the Ari Hoffman Show on Talk Radio 570 KVI. Welcome to the Ari Hoffman Show on Talk Radio 570 KVI, your home for the politically homeless, streaming live at KVI.com and the KVI app. If you want to be part of the most dangerous show on the airwaves, call or text the Warrior Injury Law Studio line at 206-421-5757. That's 206-421-5757. Coming up this hour, it turns out that left-wing media is allying with right-wing media regarding the Charlie Kirk trial. We'll tell you what's going on, but before we get to any of that, we go to the Warrior Injury Law Studio line, take a call from Lisa in Everett, who I think wants to weigh in on our previous segment about whether or not Megyn Kelly is good-looking. I'm glad I have a female perspective on this, Lisa. What's going on?
Okay, I remember I used to go visit my dad, around 80, and he would joke to me about I think it's Austin Cunningham's video, The Girls on Fox News.
The Girls on Fox News? I don't know this one. Maybe Mike knows this one. Okay.
Oh, my gosh. You have got to see it and listen to it because it talks about
this one? I think Mike's playing it right now.
Conservatives knew what life's about. Then I started leaving the Fox News channel on. If that's the face of the right, I'll tell the left so long. Oh, I want a girl like the girls on Fox News. Everyone is beautiful, anyone you choose. Whoever does the hiring knows how to light my fuse. I want a girl like the girls on Fox News.
Is that what you're talking about, Lisa?
Yes, and it lists a whole bunch of the newscasters that are on there.
I
gotcha. They're all gorgeous. You got to see it.
Well, I'd say something else. Here we go. I'm about to be the feminist in the room for a second, Lisa. Okay, I will watch this later. I think Mike just sent me an email with it. I will say this to be the feminist in the room. It's one thing if you're good looking. It's another thing if you're good looking and you're brilliant. And you look at the people who are on that show, when Kayleigh McEnany would do her press conferences, she shut down the media. She always had the facts at her disposal. You look at Caroline Leavitt in the White House press briefing room, she's not even looking at the binder. She's doing it all from memory. I mean, that's the other thing, and that's why it sticks. People would stop watching if it was just good looking, and they'd say, okay, well, I got my stuff for the day, now I'm going to go somewhere else. But they keep watching because these people know what they're talking about. Anytime I turn on the other stations, I'm like, you people are fools.
That's exactly right, and that's what the song says. Is like not only are they gorgeous, but man, they know their stuff.
That's great.
It's hilarious song, and it just chuckles when I remember my dad just getting such a kick out of it. But yeah, it's a hilarious song, so you got to see it.
I like that. Now, Lisa, I need you to hang on the line for a second because we have some off-color texts, and you need to tell me if they're funny or not. I need the women's opinion so I get the seal of approval so I don't get in trouble, especially with my wife. You cool with that?
I'm fine.
Okay, here we go. This one's from Ted. Ari, I wonder if that clown, meaning Don Lemon, doesn't think Megyn Kelly is good looking. Who does he like? Well, we know the answer to that one, right, Lisa? That's cool, right? I don't get in trouble for that? Yep. Okay. All right.
No.
This one's from Matt. I won't turn to Don Lemon for opinions on women's looks. ... Not that there's anything wrong with that, referencing the Seinfeld episode. You get that one, Lisa?
That I don't get. I don't understand it. So
they're basically saying because Don Lemon's gay. So that's basically.
Yeah. Oh, that's true. That's true. Yeah.
Okay. All right. So we got that one. Okay, Lisa, thank you for sticking around to being my kosher seal of approval on the jokes today. Do appreciate that. Appreciate the call.
Okay,
appreciate you introducing me to this song. It's great. Thank you so much.
Ari.
Yeah.
Ari.
Yeah.
I am so thankful to hear your perspective on all the Jewish stuff. I pray for your country and all your people, and I'm one of the people that are totally with you, and I'm glad to hear the strength of Israel.
That warms my heart to say, but you know what, Lisa? I got two countries, right? I got my homeland and I got my homeland. You know what I'm saying? Right?
Yeah,
so
exactly.
We're all praying for the same thing. You know, in my synagogue, we do this every single Saturday. Every single Saturday, there are two blessings we say in synagogue right before the rabbi's sermon. And one is for the government of the United States of America. And then we say the one for the state of Israel. And then here's something else that a lot of synagogues do. You say the prayer for the Israeli soldiers, and then you say the prayer for the U.S. Armed Forces. Because at the beginning of at the front of every single synagogue, on one side you have the American flag, on the other side you have the Israeli flag, because that's what we're talking about here. We're allies in this fight. You know what I mean?
Yes.
Thank you for the kind words, Lisa. It really means a lot. Thank you for listening to the show. You want to be part of the show, give us a call or a text at 206-421-5757. That's 206-421-5757. Now, I haven't had an excuse to play this clip in a while, so it's time to talk about the Rona again.
We are going to die.
We are going to die. You're going to die. I'm going to die. We're all going to die. Just not today.
A major new peer-reviewed study published in BMC Global and Public Health concludes that U.S. school closures during the COVID-19 pandemic were not cost-effective, and that the same lives could have been saved with far less economic and social destruction. Oh, tell me something I didn't know before now. Researchers Nicholas Irons and Adrian Rafferty of the University of Washington analyzed how different non-pharmaceutical interventions, such as mask mandates, event cancellations, business or school shutdowns, affected both virus transmission and the nation's economy. Using state-by-state data from 2020, they modeled how each policy changed the reproduction rate of COVID-19 and the dollar value of lives saved versus the economic fallout. Kind of analytical way to analyze that, but sure, well, kind of cold way to analyze that, but okay. Their conclusion: school closures were one of the least cost-effective policies of the entire pandemic. Quote, prolonged school closures came at an enormous social and economic cost with limited additional benefit for mortality reduction. Look, I saw it in my own kids. I saw how they were losing their social skills. I saw how they were getting more miserable, more depressed. I tried to do everything I possibly could to keep their spirits up. I bought a go-kart, and it's not just a go-kart. It was a giant dune buggy thing. So my kids would have something to do with their friends. They assembled it, watching their faces light up when they built this thing. By the way, we bought it from China, and it came with no instructions whatsoever. I didn't know it was coming from China. Holy cow, that thing was... They put this thing together having no mechanical experience whatsoever, by themselves with no instructions, and when it worked, oh, they were so happy. They were so, so happy. But we all had to do things to keep our kids sane. Remember the look in their eyes? Reminded me of the quote that Samuel L. Jackson has in Triple X when he's saying to Xander Cage, he's saying, you ever see lions at the zoo? Lions in captivity. The study estimates that closing schools led to $2 trillion loss in future U.S. economic output due to learning loss alone, not counting impacts on mental health, parental employment, and community disruption. By comparison, the total national benefit from reduced infections was far smaller because the kiddies weren't at risk for this thing. Overall, the researchers calculate that the pandemic response in 2020 cost about $4.6 trillion, but that an optimal package of policies, including mask mandates, testing, contact tracing, social distancing, and targeted workplace closures without shutting schools, could have reduced that cost to $1.9 trillion while saving more lives. Do you know what they're saying without saying in the study here? What does that mean, saving more lives? Weren't we saving everybody from COVID? Isn't that what the claim was? No, you know what they actually mean? What they're talking about is they're not discussing the mental health issues which led to drug abuse, which led to alcohol abuse, which led to suicides. They're not talking about the fact that when people lose their jobs and can't work and their family's suffering economically, they turn to drugs, they turn to suicide, they turn to alcohol. All the kids that got into gang violence, that got into the riots, that got into everything else. We cost all those lives by these stupid shutdowns. Crazy. Country could have achieved better health outcomes for less than half the price if policymakers had avoided blanket school closures. Do you remember the school closures that came after that? Oh, some kid has COVID. We got to shut down the whole school. Some teacher has COVID. We got to shut back to remote learning. By the way, I don't like this new business they're doing with snow days. So this new thing with snow days, they're saying, well, if there's a weather disaster, we can still teach you from home in Zoom. Just give the kids the day off. It's one thing if it's day after day after day, like I think it was the winter of '93 in New York, where my school got hit with this massive nor'easter, where they had men in suits cleaning up whatever had washed ashore. My school was on the water. Whatever washed ashore, they had men in suits cleaning it up for a year. It was so bad. And I think we lost like a month of school. There were so many snow closures. I get that. One day, let the kids play. Let the kids play. Just like Denzel says in Remember the Titans, right? Let the boys play. The author's findings bolster what many parents, teachers, and local officials have argued for years, that the decision to close classrooms for months and in some areas more than a year, those are rookie numbers. You got to get those numbers up. You got to pump those numbers way up. Those are rookie numbers. Seattle, what was it, almost 2 years, a year and a half? Caused long-term damage far outweighing its limited public health benefit. Even as many politicians and teachers unions defended the closures as erring on the side of caution. The new research suggests those decisions were catastrophically expensive mistakes that will burden a generation of students and the U.S. economy for decades. If you have learning loss, you have dumb citizens. If they are missing things, they are not as creative. They are not as smart. They don't have as much knowledge. You ever see the movie Idiocracy? We may have skipped a few steps thanks to COVID. Thanks to all this craziness. Quote, keeping schools open while maintaining moderate restrictions elsewhere would likely have saved more lives and preserved economic productivity. And you know what's crazy? Is that anybody who is actually following the data, anybody who is actually following the science, anybody who is doing that, anybody could have told you that. We were following the data. We were following the science. And yet the teachers' unions were the ones saying, no, we want to be in the Bahamas. We want to be Netflixing and chilling. We want to be doing all that kind of stuff, but we don't want to be actually in the classroom. It's not just COVID, where people are backtracking on previous statements. Bill Gates had a blog post Monday night. And on this blog post, he says enough with the climate insanity, because this climate insanity is the climate change will not lead to humanity's demise. Why we're listening to the computer programming man on any of this is mind-boggling. But the fact that he has been held up as the guy who's fighting climate change, I bet you Jay Inslee is sitting somewhere sitting shiva right now. I bet you Jay Inslee is rending his garments, tearing his shirt, hitting himself with the whip. Oh, no, I lost Bill Gates. I lost Greta to Gaza, and now I've lost Bill Gates. I have no friends left. What do I do? Why is Jay all alone? No friends, no friends. He wrote on his website, Gates Notes, that the belief that the cataclysmic climate change will decimate civilization is doomsday-ish. Quote, fortunately for all of us, this view is wrong. Although climate change will have serious consequences, particularly for people in the poorest countries, it will not lead to humanity's demise. People will be able to live and thrive in most places on Earth for the foreseeable future. Oh, you mean it's not going to be WALL-E, where we have to evacuate the Earth because we have so much garbage that we've launched into space and garbage has taken over the planet? You mean it's not going to be WALL-E? Wait, you mean it's not going to be the day after tomorrow where the ice caps melt and then this deep freeze and then the whole world freezes? Oh, it's not going to be any of that? Well, thanks for all the taxes. Really, thanks for the Climate Commitment Act. This is all because of you leading this insanity. Granted, you weren't alone. Granted, you weren't the only one. Some leaders in addressing climate change, according to Como News, have asserted that it could threaten the lives of people around the world. They've been saying this for years, literally 4 years. Here's Leonard Nimoy back in the 1970s.
At least 8 times in the past million years, it has advanced and retreated with clockwork regularity. If we are unprepared for the next advance, the result could be hunger and death on a scale unprecedented in all of history. What scientists are telling us now is that the threat of an ice age is not as remote as they once thought. During the lifetime of our grandchildren, Arctic cold and perpetual snow could turn most of the inhabitable portions of our planet into a polar desert.
In 1977, the worst winter in a century struck the United States. Arctic cold gripped the Midwest for weeks on end. Great blizzards paralyzed cities of the Northeast. One desperate night in Buffalo, 8 people froze to death in marooned cars. Pat Bushnell was on the road that night.
Traffic just absolutely stopped. I was afraid of being stuck in the car all night long with the cold and the wind running out of gas. And then what? I think that if we had to go through a real bad winter, just like we just went through, I think we'd have to think about moving someplace else.
Move where? The brutal buffalo winter might become common all over the United States. Climate experts believe the next ice age is on its way. According to recent evidence, it could come sooner than anyone had expected.
We're all going to die. We're all going to die. That's it. Leonard Nimoy, Spock said so. We're all going to die. Yes, I know that show was meant to scare the bejesus out of everybody, but at the same time, this is the stuff they've been peddling for years. You know, humans, we're adaptable. We fix things. Let's look at New Orleans for a minute. Why'd the levees fail? Because people hadn't done what it took to actually make sure those things had stayed in the good shape. They were being warned for years and years and years and years and years before Katrina that they were having problems with the levee system. The Army Corps of Engineers warned about it, but we are good at adapting to live in weird places. That is what we do. Why are we curious about going to the moon? We know we can't live there, but we can adapt to live there. Why do we want to go to Mars? Why do we want to go to these places? Why do people want to live on islands in the middle of nowhere? We are good at adapting. We have technology. We can figure stuff out. You know, I think we'd actually have usable electric cars, ones that get better gas mileage. I bet we'd have perpetual motion cars with the solar panels and all that right now. If everybody had actually put the efforts into how can we make this technology better rather than forcing it down everybody. I think if you said, hey, how do we do this so we get to a point where we don't need gas and we don't need oil anymore? Look, I love the electric cars I got from my friends over at Renton Chrysler Dodge Jeep Ram. I got to say, those Jeep Wagoneer S's that they gave me, wow, those things were fast. Some of the most fun cars I've ever driven, and they're faster than the Charger I have. They are faster. They're a lot of fun to drive. Now, how do we make it more affordable? How do we make it more practical? How do we bring down the price of those things? But instead, what did we do? You're all going to die. 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 And government mandated it rather than letting the free market do what the free market does. Why are people buying electric cars? Because they want the electric cars. When they have a product you like, they buy the things. And stop making them look like spaceships. That's why I love Dodge, because they look like normal cars. That's what I like about them. Why? They don't have to look like spaceships. The fact that Gates is now saying, oh, we're not all going to die, I could have told you that 20 years ago. I could have told you that 10 years ago. But Greta and Al Gore and Jay Inslee are all sitting there going, wait, how are we going to say we're all going to die in 5 years? This post of Bill Gates is going to be used against them anytime they say that nonsense ever again. Do you think Bill Gates has changed his stripes? Do you think he's changed his politics? Or do you think he's worried about his legacy now that he's getting a little bit older in life? Give me a call or a text at 206-421-5757. That's 206-421-5757. Let me know. Or do you think he's just going to go back on his word when he gets the opportunity to do so? Yeah, that might happen too. When we come back, my friends, a whole bunch of local businesses are suing Seattle, and a family is suing Gasworks Park. We'll tell you what all the lawsuits are about when we come back. You're listening to the Ari Hoffman Show on Talk Radio 570 KVI. Welcome back to the Ari Hoffman Show. I know some of you have been asking about contests, and don't worry, they'll be on their way back hopefully next week, but a lot of them might be involving the KVI app. So make sure you download the KVI app right now, so that way you can listen to the show and don't miss out on our contests. And also make sure to subscribe to our podcast on whatever your preferred podcast platform is. While you're there, remember to rate, subscribe, and share so you and your friends never miss a minute of the show. The Seattle City Council approved new legislation which allows grocery stores that close in Seattle to be replaced by another grocery chain. Now, let me explain to you how the business works from the real estate side of things so you understand it, and then slowly you're going to understand why this isn't actually going to fix anything. This is a feel-good legislation and not actually going to solve anything. We discussed a couple weeks ago, food deserts, where there's no food at all. No, what it means is grocery stores are farther away. Usually you're within a mile of a grocery store, and now you might be within 2 miles, 3 miles, 4 miles. A lot of grocery stores are closing in the Seattle area. And the reason they're closing, and they've said this very, very clearly, is because of the amount of theft and crime. And because their margins are so small, it doesn't make sense to stay open in those locations. I go to my grocery store. I think there is more security at my grocery store than at the banks I go to. I think there is more security at the grocery store sometimes than the political conventions I go to. At least when I go to the political conventions, I want to get a cup of coffee from the buffet or whatever it is. Nobody's there has to unlock the plastic plexiglass thing so I can get a cup of coffee or whatever. So these stores are closing. Now, you would think if these stores are closing, maybe we should say, hey, we'll work with you. Maybe we'll put the police there. We'll lock up prolific offenders. We'll get the riffraff. No. Instead, they say, grocery stores, it's your fault. Now, what's happening here is sometimes a grocery chain may say, all right, we're closing that store, but we're going to keep paying the rent on that store. So that way our competitors can't go into that store. Or they may have a rider in their lease that, well, if we leave, you can't give it to another grocery store chain. The Seattle City Council is trying to make that illegal, but here's my question. What other grocery store is going to want to open in a place where one of the big boys closed because they said it wasn't profitable anymore because of crime? You think this solves anything? Why don't you just try enforcing the law? Kroger has cited theft as a reason for closing the grocery store in Lake City Way and the other one in Kent. So you're mad about Fred Meyer closing. You're worried about Bartell's closing. You're worried about Walgreens and Rite Aid and all these other places closing. Yeah, well, you know what? When you let your city go to hell and you let the criminals take over the place, then you know what? That's what happens. By the way, I give a lot of kudos to Rainier Avenue Safeway. I didn't realize some people from over there actually listened to the show. They texted me the last time I brought it up. Rainier Avenue Safeway. I was complaining about how bad one of them had gone, and wouldn't you know, they actually did something about it. They heard what we were talking about on air, and they did something about it. And to their credit, it's a much better shopping experience now. The reason we have the stories about them actually stopping the shoplifters who are prolific offenders is because they took it seriously and they did something about it. When is the Seattle City Council actually going to do something about it? So we've got the Seattle City Council races, right? Something interesting, I will tell you. Adonis Ducksworth. Adonis? Yeah, that's how you pronounce it. Ducksworth. He's running for District 2 here in Seattle. Showed up doorbelling in my neighborhood yesterday. Got to give him credit. My neighborhood, pretty conservative place. And he came door knocking. Now, Adonis Ducksworth is running against Eddie Lynn. Eddie Lynn is the progressive candidate endorsed by the stranger. Adonis, yes. Ducksworth is running, and he's endorsed by the Seattle Times. This race right now, I have not made an endorsement in because I said, what's the difference between the two? It's one of those races. I will say is that the fact that he came to my neighborhood, the fact that he spoke to my wife, the fact that he spoke to my father-in-law, the fact that hopefully we're setting something up here on the show so he can answer some of my questions, gives him a little bit more street cred, in my opinion. A little bit more. So when we have him on the show and we get him to sign the pledge, you know what the pledge is anytime a candidate comes on the show, especially from the Seattle City Council, I ask two things. One, will you call for an audit of Homeless Inc.? That's number one. What's number two? Will you come on the show when I reach out politely and ask you to schedule permitting? Those are the only two things I ask. I don't ask a lot for my endorsement. Say, back it up. That's all we want. Homeless Inc. is funding the problems you're having in the grocery stores. Why? Because they are funding the prolific offenders. They are funding the drug addicts. They are taxpayer-funded drug addicts on the streets who are creating the food desert. So hopefully we're going to have a Dennis Ducksworth on the show so we can talk to him about all this. I look forward to that. Got his business card, got his phone number, left it with my wife. Happy to have that conversation. Hopefully we'll be having him on the show before Election Day so we can have that conversation. Meanwhile, an owner of a struggling shopping center in Seattle's Little Saigon neighborhood is suing Seattle after a deal to transform the mall fell through, according to the Seattle Times. In a lawsuit filed in August, Dennis L. Chin, whose family owns Asian Plaza on Jackson Street, blames the multi-million-dollar deal's failure on Seattle's homeless policy and allegedly its lax law enforcement. He's looking for $30 million in damages. He claims the city of Seattle pushed homelessness into Little Saigon on purpose and allowed drug use and crime to proliferate there, causing his tenants to flee and rendering the property unmarketable. He's 100% right. When they opened the Navigation Center in Chinatown, which is basically, come here and do drugs, come here and get drug paraphernalia, come here and be homeless, that's exactly what happened. Make no mistake about it. Bruce Harrell and crew, they destroyed Chinatown. Bruce Harrell, who goes, I'm Asian, I'm black and I'm Asian, vote for me. My mother was Japanese, she was in an internment camp, vote for me. Chinatown loves me. No, I'm so good to Chinatown. No, they don't. You were part of that. You were part of that. And to make matters worse, when residents of Chinatown showed up to protest the Navigation Center, various outlets and government officials took the picture of them protesting and said they had come out to support the opening of the Navigation Center. I remember when I was dealing with all that chaos out at the Jewish cemeteries here when the homeless moved in. And I remember I filed a form you do before a lawsuit, which says we want our expenses reimbursed. What was it, $300,000, $400,000 in damage they had caused to the Jewish cemeteries because of their homeless policies? And I remember when they rejected it, I called the guy on the phone, and I wish I had recorded this. I wish I had recorded this. And I said, why'd you reject it? Clearly, I've shown that you guys are responsible for this. And he says, well, if we pay you, we have to pay everybody else. I think that the owner of this shopping mall, Dennis Chin, should get every single dollar he is asking for because 1,000% this is Seattle government's fault. People like Bruce Harrell. Lots more to discuss as the show continues, my friends. Not everybody has to be Seattle. Your city has a choice. It can be someplace like Bellevue. We're going to tell you why Bellevue is so exceptional and why you should give Jared Neuenhaus a look for Bellevue City Council when we come back. You're listening to the Ari Hoffman Show on Talk Radio 570 KVI. My friends, you're about to hear the nicest intro I've ever done for a campaign we had on this show. And let me tell you why. A lot of campaigns, a lot of people who are running for office, I'm friends with them, sure. But there's not a lot that I have had scotch with. And I have scotch with a lot of people. Then there's a smaller number of people that I would trust my life to. Then there's an even smaller number of people I would trust my kid's life to. And I'll tell you is that person is Jared Neuenhuis, who's running for city council in Bellevue because he's done such a great job over in Bellevue. And I'll tell you, this is a person who has become a close friend of mine. We talk even when it's not about political stuff. And this is somebody who deserves your vote no matter who he's running against. I have done no research into the other side of this. I am freely admitting this. I've done no research into the other candidate because I like Councilmember Jared Neuenhuis so much, and we've become such good friends. He's one of the first interviews I did when I got the job here at KVI. Joining us now on the Warrior Injury Law studio line, Councilmember for Bellevue, running for re-elect, Deputy Mayor of Bellevue, Councilmember Jared Neuenhuis. Thank you so much for being with us today.
Ari, thank you so much, and thank you for the kind words. Really appreciate it.
Oh, I meant every single one of them. So now that I got all the good stuff out of the way, let's do this.
Yeah.
You're running for re-election, and when you run for re-election, you're looking for the things you haven't done yet. So let's start with the hard question. Is there something you wanted to accomplish that you haven't been able to do so yet that's on your agenda for the next time around?
Well, you know, with a lot of these issues, they're continuing, right? Like, look at my track record on public safety. You know, I was advocating and fully funding our law enforcement here in Bellevue when it was fashionable to defund or reimagine police departments. I just recently passed an ordinance. I'm not sure you heard about it, but I just passed an ordinance that puts more teeth into retail theft in Bellevue. So now, if you are caught in Bellevue for a third time committing retail theft, there is a mandatory sentence of 30 days, period. And it doesn't matter if the first two times you did retail theft in Walla Walla or in Spokane. If you do that third time in Bellevue, sorry, you're going to jail for 30 days. And it's the number one issue time and time again with residents. And, you know, that's who I report to. That's who my boss is, right? And too often people are like, oh, Bellevue's safe. And Bellevue is very safe. But on retail theft, it's the only category that continues to go up. And if it can happen in Redmond, for example, that closed one of their Kroger grocery stores because of retail theft getting out of control, it can also happen in Bellevue. And I want Bellevue to remain not only a safe place, but a place that you want to do business. I want to invite all the small businesses, the restaurants, the grocery stores, as well as the tech companies to come to Bellevue and thrive in Bellevue. Obviously, housing is still a big issue. Want to continue to do good work there and create more options for people. Too often we focus so much on that, 0 to 30% AMI levels for housing, which is very hard to create. But we just need more housing. Period. We need more options for people who want to live and work in our city, and that's really what will be sustainable in the long time and will bring down prices. So those are just some of the things that I continue to focus on, Ari.
We're talking with Councilmember Jared Neuenhuis from Bellevue, Deputy Mayor of Bellevue. And what's fascinating to me is I saw an email, because I don't actually read their articles, but I saw an email because I'm still on their list somehow from the Seattle Times talking about why Seattle and Bellevue need each other. And without reading the article, I could tell you that's absolute garbage because Bellevue doesn't need Seattle. But I will say is that from what you just said, every single issue you just mentioned, I think you're dealing with because of Seattle's failures. When there's less stores in Seattle, where are they going to go steal from? When there's less things, when there's less housing because people don't want to be here anymore because of how badly run Seattle is, where do they want to go? They want to go to the successful place. It sounds to me like the growing pains that Bellevue is having is not just because Amazon and everybody else has decided to move over there because you guys do such a good job, but it's because of your neighbors' failures. That's what it sounds like to me.
Yeah. No, for sure. I think that is part of it. We also benefit from it, right? I mean, look, if certain policies continue to be enforced in Seattle or lack of enforcement, more and more businesses are going to want to come to Bellevue. And if certain people are elected in Seattle, I know for a fact that more companies, more businesses, more people will be looking to move across the lake. I mean, elections have consequences. While I think there could be some very short-term gain there, I do worry about the strength overall of the region. I think we are stronger when Seattle is stronger, and we can look to them as a partner. It's a bit of a mixed bag at times for sure.
I think that the only thing you really need Seattle for is the sports teams. And we can argue over which ones you actually need to keep. But that's just a me thing. In the last few minutes, we have with council member Jared Neuenhuis, who is running for re-election out in Bellevue. What are some things that maybe you haven't floated or maybe you floated on your campaign site that are new that you want to take on this time?
Yeah, well, new, I would say I want to increase the number of officers that we currently have. We need to, and you pointed to it just there, just because we're growing doesn't mean we need to lessen our quality of life. I hear it all the time, like, oh, Bellevue's getting bigger, we can't expect the same level of services. I just reject that. I think we can maintain our quality of life. I think we can maintain our standards in terms of policing, in terms of protecting our single-family neighborhoods, in terms of protecting our strong schools. All those things are still on the table and something that we need to fund and make sure that they continue to be at that high level. It really comes down to political courage and political will to maintain that level, and that's something that I'll be focused on starting on day one and building on the many accomplishments that I've had over my first 8 years on Bellevue City Council.
Well, I'll say this, is that I fully back you. I fully support you. If you had more synagogues out in Bellevue that were to my taste, I'd probably go out there as well. But I'll just say you've done such a phenomenal, phenomenal job. And if people are saying, well, we can't expect the same level of services, you can just point to Florida and say half the country moved to Florida during COVID, and their level of services has only gone up because the more people that come in, the more revenue we get, the more services we can buy. You're doing a great job. Bellevue, every time I go to Bellevue, I drive through Bellevue, and I'm like, oh, you can have this in Washington. Isn't this nice? And I don't say that about a lot of places in the greater Seattle area. So Councilmember Jared Neuenhuis deserves not just your vote, your support, your donations, your door knocking. My only regret about his campaign is that I don't live in Bellevue and I can't vote for him myself. Thank you so much for joining us today, my friend.
Thank you so much. And if anyone would like to learn more about my campaign and issues and endorsements, please go to jaredforbellevue.com.
Definitely go to jaredforbellevue.com. Support his campaign. He's one of us, my friends. He is one of us. Thank you so much for joining us today. We got a whole lot more to discuss as the show continues. You're listening to The Ari Hoffman Show on Talk Radio 570 KVI. Welcome back to the Ari Hoffman Show. Reminder to check out KVI.com, where we got new articles up there. We got interviews up there, lots of good stuff. And I'm going to be breaking some news tomorrow over at KVI.com, where I did an analysis of Seattle Police Department's claims about how many officers they're getting. Not exactly what they claim. We'll have the real numbers for you, so make sure you check out KVI.com. While you're there, sign up to become a KVI Insider. You'll see it right there on the side, so that way you get all our emails about all our upcoming events and more. We go to the Warrior Injury Law studio line. Take a call from Ron in Tacoma. Ron, what's up, man?
I'm a little bit confused. Now, here we go again. I just open up the news, and what do I find? I find that Trump is being sued because he's not funding the SNAP program and miscellaneous things like that. Now, maybe you could explain to me. I know in the United States we used to have cause. There had to be some reason that you were bringing things to court, and it seems to me that the Democrat Party is bringing everything to court. I don't even know why we have politicians. Why don't we just have lawsuits and judges?
Well, hang on a second. Let's stop right there. I need to correct a little misinformation there, Ron. Being the only one in my family who's not an attorney, my father used to say all the time, you can sue anybody for anything, you just won't necessarily win. No, what'll happen is this thing still gets its day in court. It may get chucked, but it still gets its day in court, costing a lot of people money, including the taxpayers, for having to go through this rigmarole. So no, you can sue anybody for anything. Standing may be something that is determined at the first hearing. Or they may look at it, a judge may look at it and say, we're not even taking this case. The problem is, nowadays, the ones making money off all this are the attorneys, because so many cases are being heard that have no business being heard. Something we should discuss, which unfortunately gets bumped to the side all the time, is tort reform. If we could get rid of a lot of these frivolous lawsuits, then you know what? We could get rid of the backlog in courts. We could cut down on how much money it's costing taxpayers, but also we could fix a lot of things in the medical world. We could fix a lot of things in the legal world. Tort reform is a way to go. Now, back to why you're calling in about this SNAP business. What you're saying is the Democrats are keeping the government closed. If the Democrats weren't keeping the government closed, nobody would be denied any benefits right now. So why don't we just sue the Democrats for denying people benefits as a counter lawsuit?
I have no problem with that. But here's the kicker. If the Democrat Party, they're always suing. They're always tying things up in court. Why are they not paying for it?
Yeah.
Why do taxpayers have to pay for what they're doing?
Yeah, exactly. It's crazy because they're not accountable for the money. You know what it should be? You know how I would love to do tort reform? Here's how you reform the justice system. Tort is the law, is basically these lawsuits, these frivolous lawsuits. So here's how I could fix this. You just say, if you bring a case that is thrown out of court, you're on the hook for all the legal bills of both sides. That would solve so many problems right there. What do you think, Ron? You think that's the way to go?
I think that's fair, but I don't think that should apply to individual citizens. If you're talking about political parties, absolutely.
Well, no, for individual citizens, if let's say this, if you feel that I wronged you in some way, Ron, right? You have to think to yourself before you sue me. You should be thinking whether or not it's worth it. If you don't have standing, you shouldn't be wasting the court's time with something that's going to get thrown out of court. What I'm saying is it should apply to everybody. And what I would really love to see, even though it's never going to happen, what I would love to see happen is that if a politician brings this stupidity, then they're on the hook for bringing this stupidity, not the taxpayers.
Absolutely. If the party pays, I'm all for it.
Okay, good. See, I like this. This is how we solve things and move forward. Ron, appreciate the call. Appreciate you being part of the show. You want to be part of the show, you give us a call or text at 206-421-5757. That's 206-421-5757. Speaking of lawsuits, by the way, according to the Post-Millennial, Court TV's Julie Grant backed the push to have cameras in the courtroom for the trial of Tyler Robinson, who has been charged with assassinating Turning Point USA founder Charlie Kirk. This comes as the defense has requested that cameras be banned from the courtroom to minimize the effects of prejudicial pre-trial publicity. Are you kidding me with this? This is nonsense. Look, you don't want to have pre-trial publicity, prejudicial publicity. Then you know what? Sequester the jury. Then sequester the jury. People should be allowed to see what is happening in this courtroom. Human Events Media Group, full disclosure, I work for them. I work for the Post-Millennial. They're owned by Human Events Media Group, has filed an open letter urging the cameras be allowed. Grant said, and by the way, Court TV, not known as a member of the right-wing media conspiracy. Not known as that. But they said, let the cameras roll. The defendant accused of assassinating Charlie Kirk wants to keep cameras out of the courtroom. His lawyers argue it will taint the prospective jury pool and jeopardize his right to a fair trial. They will say after his first court appearance, the public scrutiny of his appearance and his movements was happening excessively because what was shown in the courtroom. When you pick up murder charges, public scrutiny usually comes with it. What did defendant Tyler Robinson think was going to happen next after he allegedly confessed to his lover that he assassinated Charlie Kirk? Do you think a walk in the park was coming next? No. Criminal charges and a trial, and if he so chooses, are what comes next. Grant noted that in Utah, cameras are permitted to film and photograph court proceedings. We've seen time and time again with the trials that we broadcast here on Court TV that cameras have zero bearing on the fairness of a trial. Noting the trials with intense public scrutiny, such as O.J. Simpson, Casey Anthony, and Karen Reed. The jurors aren't watching the trial on TV. They're not allowed to do it. So it sounds to me like this defendant just wants some special treatment. But he's not special, and I suspect the judge will deny his request to exclude the cameras. But yet still, that judge will ensure that Mr. Robinson receives a fair trial he's entitled to receive. She concluded, this was a murder meant for the world to see. The trial seeking justice for Charlie Kirk should be seen by the world as well. Human Events Media Group has submitted an open letter to Judge Tony Graff, respectfully urging him to allow cameras in the courtroom, even though Robinson's defense has already been granted their request for the client to appear in civilian clothing. The question is the judge going to say no cameras either, and then we don't know what's going on. This woman from Court TV had the exact right statement. This assassin wanted the world to see Charlie Kirk get assassinated. The world should get to see his trial as well. Tell me what you think. Should cameras be allowed in the courtroom? You give us a call or a text at 206-421-5757. That's 206-421-5757. When we come back, final hour free for all. Your calls, your texts, your thoughts, your stories, plus so much more. You're listening to The Ari Hoffman Show on Talk Radio 570 KVI. Welcome to the Ari Hoffman Show's final hour free for all. Your calls, your texts, your thoughts, your stories, streaming live at KVI.com and the KVI app. If you want to be part of the most dangerous show on the airwaves, call or text the Warrior Injury Law Studio line at 206-421-5757. That's 206-421-5757. Coming up this hour, more teachers in Washington behaving badly, and California officials release a Seattle murderer by accident. But before we get to any of that, looks like a lot of you have a lot of thoughts on the trial of Charlie Kirk's alleged assassin. This one here from Mike in Everett. He says, not only should there be cameras in the courtroom during the trial, I also think there should be cameras televising his execution if he is found guilty and sentenced to death. John in Auburn says, Ari, cameras absolutely should be allowed in court. Besides the attempted assassination of Mr. Trump, the assassination of Charlie Kirk is the most profound thing to happen in decades. Yeah, I'm agreeing with all you guys. Pam in Lake Stevens says yes, cameras for direct, accurate trial coverage. You know what I never liked was always the courtroom sketches. That kind of bothers me. I don't want to put anybody out of work here if you're a courtroom sketch artist. But at the same time, it doesn't feel like it's really getting covered. This one here from Eben and Bonnie Lake. Ari, the fact that Democrats sue about everything on the taxpayer's dime, even though they know the lawsuit will lose, show that Democrats do not care at all about taxpayers. If they can get some kind of headline out of it, they're more than willing to throw all that taxpayer money into a bonfire. Yes, exactly right. I really think that's how you solve tort reform. Put people on the hook financially for this kind of stuff. When it's their money as opposed to the taxpayers, they'll be more willing to do something about it. There's been a lot of discussion on social media about what Charlie Kirk would have said, wouldn't have said about the whole Nick Fuentes, Tucker Carlson thing. Well, we don't have to look that far. He may not be with us anymore, but he was asked this very question not too long ago. Give a listen.
Nick Fuentes, I'm sure you've heard of him. And these people, they've been active for a long time, and it seems like they've just been ignored, which is working, but now they're kind of surging in popularity. And as someone who I enjoy watching your debates, are they people you'd be willing to engage with and maybe shut them down in a way through a debate or something like that?
Well, I mean, I'll get to debate Candace. But no, look, I'll debate anybody that shows up at our campus events first and foremost. But I do want to take what you say and extrapolate that there is a corner of the internet of people that want to point and blame the Jews for all their problems. Everybody, this is demonic and it's from the pit of hell. And it should not be tolerated. Really. But it goes to the problem of an entire generation that has economic resentment. They don't own anything. They're not getting married. They're not having children. They're depressed. They're anxious. They're staring at their screens all day long. And if all of a sudden your extrapolation of all that is, well, it's the Jews' fault, that is sloppy and shallow thinking. You're trying to blame an entire ethnicity for a singular problem. Hold on, let's take a step back here. Instead of that, what could you possibly do in your own personal life to improve your own state of being? If you are blaming 0.02% of the world's population for all of your problems, that is not going to be good for your soul. It's not good for your psychology. It's not good for your future in any way, shape, or form. And so I would just say this, that any young person that goes into this hyper online brain rot, you are serving yourself over to your own demise. You are serving yourself into a suicide mission that will not make you happier and not make you healthier. Instead, here's what your attitude should be. Your attitude should be like, I can't own stuff, I got it, can't own a home, I'm not getting married, I don't know who to date. He said, wow, the challenges are immense. I'm going to now overcome all those challenges and go on an adventure. I'm going to prove everyone wrong. I'm now not going to be a victim. I'm going to be a victor. I'm going to dig deep. This is still a great country. This is a free country. I'm going to use my agency. I'm going to use my ability. And I'm not just going to go point in the corner and be like, I'm overweight because of the Jews. Women don't want to date me because of the Jews. How about this? As Jordan Peterson would say, sit up straight with your shoulders back. Follow the rules for life, make yourself interesting, learn something new every single day, and instead of pointing at a small group of people and engaging in this brain rot, become a better person. You'll be a happier and healthier, more joyful and productive person.
Why did I play that clip, by the way? Because it's easy for anybody to blame anybody for everything rather than fixing themselves. Okay? You know, I wanted to have this radio show. I did. But if I hadn't applied for the radio show and I hadn't asked Kirby to help me out, and I hadn't come in for interviews, it would have just been me sitting in my house going, I should have gotten that job. Whoever got the job instead of me. It was not easy to get this job. They made me work for it. I mean, I'm happy they did. It made me a better radio host in the meantime. I had to get past Big Mike. That was the hardest part of the entire interview thing. Does Big Mike like me or not? Does Kevin like me or not? If that hadn't worked out, there'd be no Ari Hoffman show, so you can thank Mike for that. But Kirby said, I'm going to give in your application, but you got to do this on your own. Absolutely. And that's exactly what happened. You know how easy it would have been for me to just go, yeah, I want to be on KVI when I heard there was an opening, but not send in an application, and then go, how dare they hire him? Didn't they know I existed? Didn't they know I was out here? For a lot of people, it's really, really easy to blame somebody else for all your failures. Look at Bob Ferguson. Look at Bob Ferguson. All he does is blame Donald Trump for everything, and yet the Democrats have caused all the problems we're dealing with right now, including the out-of-control spending. You know people who sit in their basements all day long and just blame other people. Was it Aristotle who said every human being needs 3 things to be alive in life? Air in their lungs, water, and somebody to blame. That's what they need, right? I think I'm quoting that correctly. Because that's what people do. So you want to blame the Jews? You know, you can blame Republicans too, right? Here in Washington, everything is Republicans' fault. Can you tell me one thing in Washington that Republicans actually run? So Tucker and Nick Fuentes and Candace Owens and all these other people want to blame the Jews all the time. You know what's funny to me? Tucker Carlson, 20 years ago when he was on CNN, was calling out people who are doing the very same thing he's doing right now by platforming these crazies. Give a listen.
I mean, this is part of the sad thing with Pat Buchanan, as far as I'm concerned. And just to restate, I mean, Pat does raise issues that I think are important. I mean, I think that, you know, the sovereignty of the American military, et cetera. I mean, these are not just crank issues. But unfortunately, Pat Buchanan raises them in a way that I think is discredited. And when attacked, he can always fall back on the line, well, the tiny cabal that controls American politics doesn't like me because I speak truth to power. This is actually, incidentally, almost verbatim what he said the other day, that I offend the plutocracy, that I'm a wanted man by the inside the Beltway people, and in every sense cast himself as a victim who is sort of a Karen Silkwood of politics, someone who's so truthful that he's being hunted down by the conspiracy that runs Washington. I mean, it's all a bit much. Maybe Pat Buchanan just says things that are kind of kooky, and that's why he's being criticized. It's perfectly valid to question America's relationship with Israel. Israel has a lobby. It's perfectly fair, as far as I'm concerned, to beat up on Israel's lobby. But I don't think that's the reason that Buchanan is being labeled an anti-Semite. It's this kind of, as I've said, this relentless bringing up topics related to Judaism. I mean, famously, Pat, always beats up on Goldman Sachs, but never Morgan Stanley. I mean, it's really hard to. There is no point at which Pat Buchanan has held a press conference and said, I really don't like the Jews. I think they're a sinister force in America. But I think, and it took me years to come to this position. I mean, I'm not throwing the term anti-Semite around. But you reach a point when you say, well, gee, here's a guy who has gone out of his way to defend Demjanjuk and other accused Nazi war criminals, who's constantly attacked Israel, who's attacked American Jews for supporting Israel unduly, who's implied that American Jews push America into wars in which non-Jews die. There really is, and again, I'm not hysterical on this subject, but I do believe that there is a pattern with Pat Buchanan of needling the Jews. Is that anti-Semitic? Yeah. I mean, after a while, you conclude it is, in some sense, anti-Semitic. I mean, Pat Buchanan obviously has a lot of personal and affectionate relationships with people who are Jewish. So on a personal level, perhaps he's not. But on a different, maybe thematic level, I think he probably is. I think that people should be allowed to have differing views on immigration. I think people should be allowed to point out the fact that there is an Israeli lobby, and yes, it's powerful, and debate the merits of that, I guess. I don't think there's, strictly speaking, anything wrong with that. But again, I think Pat Buchanan is part of the reason it's so hard to have that conversation, because he discredits it by his presence, because he gives people who watch him carefully the sense that he has another agenda that has to do with personal dislike, and that he believes in conspiracies, and that he believes that the Jews are this sinister, secretly organized force trying to affect American politics. And those aren't discussions I think normal people, sober people, should be having, because I think they're ludicrous.
It's funny to me that that's Tucker Carlson 20 years ago calling out Pat Buchanan. When I bet you if I interspace that with clips of him now, it perfectly describes what he's doing right now. The craziest thing. Where's old Tucker Carlson? What happened to Tucker Carlson? I was never his biggest fan, but at least he was talking normally a few years ago. What happened to him? It's crazy to me that old Tucker Carlson would have called out new Tucker Carlson. A little intellectual honesty here, where he's literally calling out Pat Buchanan for doing the same things he is doing right now. We go to the Warrior Injury Law studio line, take a call from Ted in Gig Harbor. Ted, what's going on?
Ari, here's a story from when you first started, okay? Kirby was retiring, okay? And I was at a fundraiser. I don't mention the guy's name. His name is Paul. You know him. There were a lot of speakers, and one of the speakers introduced this new radio guy named Ari Hoffman, okay? And you know how everybody used to go, Kirby, Kirby, for Kirby Wilbur?
Yeah.
Well, as you said a few words, and then the crowd busted into, Ari, Ari, Ari.
I remember this. I do remember this, yeah.
You were going to be our guy, and we were going to be yours. And, yeah, I just thought you might like to reminisce just a tiny bit. That was a great moment.
Thank you for that, Ted. I really do appreciate it. I appreciate that trip down memory lane. It was actually, here, I'll tell you a little one, not to pat myself on the back so much, but I was at an event not too long ago where, let's just say the other speakers, I'm not even going to say what the event was. I'm not going to say who it was for or anything. Let's just say the other speakers kind of fell flat, right? My jokes landed, my lines landed, and afterwards somebody said to me, they go, man, wish I could have applauded and cheered for you after that. It wasn't the kind of moment where you can really do that, but yeah, that was kind of funny. Thanks for the stroll down memory lane, Ted. Thanks for always being a supporter.
Yeah,
Thanks for listening to the show from the beginning, my man. Appreciate you being part of the show. You want to be part of the show, you give us a call or a text at 206-421-5757. That's 206-421-5757. Mike says over on the text line, my late Buddhist teacher used to always say that if you want to find out who is to blame for most of your problems, look in the mirror. It is our ego that causes most of the problems. He says the Declaration of Independence did not guarantee us happiness, but the pursuit of happiness. The Founding Fathers believed the role of the nation was to create the circumstances under which people can find happiness. That's very wise, Mike. I like that one here. Getting back to the Charlie Kirk assassin trial, Catherine in Puyallup says, I don't think it should be televised because they could have the wrong guy. If you're innocent until proven guilty, then they could be televising the wrong person. Not only that, why give publicity to the issue or ratings to these news stations that are only looking for ratings and not the truth? Okay, Catherine, those are some legit arguments right there. Absolutely. Right now, this guy's picture's all over the TV. This guy's picture's all over the news. Don't you think you would want somebody saying he's innocent as much as you want somebody saying he's guilty? For example, this is a Trivial Pursuit question in the Millennial Edition. Who was the bomber of the 1996 Olympics in Atlanta? A lot of people still say Richard Jewell. Because all the television, all the media was about how we think we have the guy, and he wasn't the guy. That movie by Clint Eastwood, that Clint Eastwood directed, stellar. Stellar movie because I was a kid. I wasn't paying attention to that. I was paying attention to the U.S. women's gymnastics team in 1996. I wasn't paying attention to the rest of this. I remember those Olympics, believe me, formative years in my youth. But I knew there was a bombing. I knew it happened, but I didn't know much about it. Fantastic movie. If you haven't seen it, go see the Richard Jewell movie. But everybody thought this guy did it. In fact, to this day, there's still people who do it. So maybe it actually exonerates the guy. That's a fair point. Or maybe, Catherine, you'd say afterwards, maybe we should show everybody the video. Or here's where I'm going to disagree with you, Catherine, where you said, not only that, why give publicity to the issue or ratings to these news stations? They're only looking for ratings and not the truth. Okay, I will say this. I think it should be live and you should have a live stream. I don't have a problem with the ratings. What I have a problem with is them cutting and pasting. I don't want to see them cut away from important parts. But you need to give publicity to the issue. This guy meant to take out Charlie Kirk on a world stage, and we need to know the reasons why. And what I want are those news stations you hate, Catherine, and I hate Catherine. Not I hate Catherine. I hate those news stations. Comma, Catherine. Punctuation saves lives. But the reason I want these news stations to cover it is I want them to say that this guy was a trans activist with his live-in boyfriend. I want them to say all of that. I want to know how this guy was radicalized, and I want all these news stations to have to report on every single minute of it. Let us know what you think. 206-421-5757. That's 206-421-5757. Switching gears, I bet these students wish there weren't cameras in the room now. Virginia school officials and parents are condemning a series of student-made videos posted by the Muslim Student Association chapters at 2 Fairfax County high schools, in which members stage mock kidnappings as part of efforts to recruit for the club. Mock kidnappings by the Muslim Student Association. Barely 2 years after October 7th. Craziness. Absolute craziness. By the way, Fairfax County, this is high-end areas. These are areas, privileged areas, shall we just say. All right? Critics say the content is traumatizing, especially for Jewish students, which appear to mock the real-world kidnappings carried out by Hamas on October 7, 2023. The since-deleted clips filmed at Langley High School in McLean and Thomas Jefferson High School in Science and Technology in Alexandria appear to show Muslim Student Association members targeting students who refuse to join the club. In one video, students at Langley can be seen placing a bag over a classmate's head, lifting him off the ground, and throwing him into the trunk of a car, which quickly drives away. The scene ends with the group laughing and asking bystanders if they want to join after seeing the consequence of saying no. A similar video, Thomas Jefferson, depicts the students covering a classmate's head with a keffiyeh while stuffing another into a plastic storage bin before dragging them away. It's unclear whether the two clubs coordinated the content, though similar clips from unrelated students mocking club recruitment have surfaced online. You know the thing for me that bothered me the most, actually? One of them, after they kidnap the kid and wrap a keffiyeh around him, there's a scene where 2 of these kids are lying on the floor in a little corner of the classroom behind a curtain, and it looked a lot like the tunnels. They may not have meant to do that, and I'm not saying I get triggered so easily, but a little common sense with this, or is it built into the culture, where you think filming these videos of kidnapping somebody is funny? Fairfax County Public Schools swiftly condemned the footage, stressing that the district did not approve the videos and warned that disciplinary consequences are possible. Do you know why Fairfax County schools condemned this so quickly, especially when libs of TikTok posted the video? Because Fairfax County Schools is currently being investigated by the Trump administration for DEI violations and allowing attacks on students who support Israel. Quote, these videos depict violence, including kidnappings, with victims being hooded and placed in the trunk of a car. Acting out these types of violent acts is traumatizing to many of us to watch, and given world events, especially traumatizing to our Jewish students, staff, and community. FCPS would never consider these videos to be appropriate or acceptable content. Now, here's something else I don't understand. When you're in high schools, and I've run high school clubs in different parts of the country, there is always a faculty advisor. Where was the faculty advisor during all this? Or were they going along with all this thinking it was funny? That's something you should be more concerned about. For example, when I ran Jewish culture clubs in schools in the greater Seattle area, always some Jewish teacher would say, I want to volunteer. I assume it works the other way for the Muslim Student Association. Where was the teacher? Who was the teacher? Was this stuff filmed under the teacher's supervision? If so, they should be fired immediately, because they didn't see a problem with this and say, hey, guys, maybe not the best idea in the world. Because multiple students at Thomas Jefferson were reportedly suspended over the event, prompting backlash from the Council on American Islamic Relations. Oh, wait a minute. The group that's an unindicted co-conspirator in the largest terror financing trial in U.S. history for funneling money to Hamas is mad that kids were reenacting Hamas, is mad that students are being suspended for reenacting acts of Hamas? Tell me, you're saying the quiet part out loud here, you lunatics. How many other things do we need to prove of what CARE is up to? They're coming to the defense of kids who are doing what terrorists did on October 7th. Oh, this stuff just makes me sick. It makes me sick. And the people who don't see it, that's just mind-blowing to me. When we come back, my friends, lots more to discuss, lots more to cover, including California somehow managed to release a murderer from Seattle. We'll tell you all about it when we come back, but first, Todd Herman's Daily Thoughtcast right now on the Ari Hoffman Show. Democrat policies are the same across blue states on the West Coast. Law enforcement agencies across the West Coast are searching for a 20-year-old murder suspect from Washington who was mistakenly released from a California jail last week. The Contra Costa County, try saying that 3 times fast, Sheriff's Office confirmed Monday that they are investigating how Isaiah Jamon Andrews of Kent, Washington, was released from the Martinez detention facility on October 22nd, despite being held on an out-of-state homicide warrant tied to a fatal shooting here in Seattle. I mean, this is absolutely crazy. This is literally out of the movie Idiocracy. I think we have exclusive audio about how this guy escaped. Hang on a second here. Let's find out.
Desperate and scared, Joe used his superior intelligence to come up with the best escape plan he could think of.
Hi, excuse me. I'm actually supposed to be getting out of prison today, sir. Yeah.
You're in the wrong line, dumbass. Over there.
I'm sorry, I'm in a big dumbass.
Sorry. Hey, let this dumbass through.
Is it really that easy? Seattle police identified Andrews as the prime suspect in the October 15th murder of 20-year-old Theodore Wheeler at the Hotel Nexus on North Gateway. I remember covering that story. Officers respond to reports of gunfire, found Wheeler dead in the hotel parking lot. 3 days later, Andrews was arrested in California after leading police on a car chase. He was booked into the Contra Costa County Jail. Ha ha! Did it. I got the, look at that. Look at that. Okay. On local charges, a juvenile warrant out of Sacramento, and the Seattle homicide warrant. Hang on a second. So he's he's not 21 yet, so I guess technically he's a kid, but not really a kid. He's still over 18. This is crazy. This is absolutely crazy. However, CCCSO, it's easier to say it the other way, Contra Costa County jail officials say that on October 22nd, Andrews was erroneously released from the jail. Oh my God, it literally is Idiocracy. The sheriff's office described the incident as a procedural failure under active review. Quote, the Contra Costa County office of the sheriff, I'm having so much fun saying that now that I can, is currently investigating the circumstances surrounding the release of an inmate identified as 20-year-old Isaiah Jamon Andrews of Kent, Washington. After sheriff's office staff realized Andrews had been released, we launched a search of the immediate area and confirmed that Andrews was no longer in the area. This is crazy. This is nuts. They just let this guy out? A multi-agency manhunt is now underway, led by the U.S. Marshal Service, with assistance from Seattle Police and California law enforcement. Yeah, they're going to have this guy show up. I want a search of every hen house, dog house, outhouse. Oh, unbelievable. They just let this guy out of jail. You know, this isn't like the last time somebody got let out of jail where he had a court proceeding and they didn't put the hold on him, and his lawyer's like, well, if you're not going to put the hold on him, we're not going to tell you to put the hold on him. It's not like that. This one, what was the procedural error that got this guy released from jail? What do you think it was? I kind of want your speculation on this one. What you think got this guy released from jail? Could have been anything. Could have been in the wrong one, right? Could have been in the wrong line. I'm sure that's what it was. Switching gears, by the way, scary situation in Portland. Authorities, according to KGW8, are continuing to investigate a fire that broke out early Sunday morning outside the home of Portland City Councilor Candace Avalos in the Mill Park neighborhood. By the way, this wasn't outside the home. They have a detached garage. The whole thing went up in flame, including the cars. Portland Fire and Rescue, the Portland Police Bureau, respond to reports of a fire around 2:40 a.m. on Sunday. Firefighters found several vehicles and a carport on fire when they arrived. Crews put out the flames. No one was hurt. New findings released Monday afternoon show the fire started in a storage shed next to the home, not in the Avalos car as initially thought. The fire then spread to affect their property and neighboring homes. Authorities said they cannot determine the exact cause of fire at this point. Right now, they have no evidence of an accelerant or an incendiary device. There is no evidence suggesting that Avalos was specifically targeted, according to the police bureau. Avalos said she was home when the fire started, escaped safely with her cat, Valentino. This is, if you see the video footage of this is like something out of a horror movie. It's really, really scary. So, luckily, thank God everybody's okay. Is this political violence? Is this something else? Or is it just, somebody put something they shouldn't have in a storage facility? Meanwhile, other things happening in Portland. According to the post-millennial, Portland police arrested 2 Antifa-affiliated siblings from New Jersey on Saturday night after left-wing agitators once again clashed with officers near the city's Immigration and Customs Enforcement facility in the South Waterfront District. According to the Portland Police Bureau, the city activated an incident command team as demonstrators flared up for the second straight weekend. The command structure included the Rapid Response Team, the Portland Police Bureau Sound Truck. Oh, that sounds like a party. Oh, no, wait. They're the big things that like break your eardrums. And dialogue liaison officers, uniformed officers in white shirts who act as go-betweens with the protest groups. Unbelievable. Just arrest everybody. Authorities said Kevin J. Byer, 19, and Benjamin J. Byer, 22, both from New Jersey, repeatedly walked into inactive traffic lanes on South Bancroft Street despite several warnings from police. Officers eventually arrested the pair, booked them into the Multnomah County Detention Center on charges of disorderly conduct in the second degree. This is something, the ICE facility, what's going on outside of it, is deteriorating. We've had multiple guests on the show. I've spoken to a bunch of people who have gone down there, where basically now it's just become a streamer's circus, a streamer's carnival, where now everybody from the right and left is down there hoping for something to happen. And now you've got people on the right down there who want to beat up the people from the left down there. It's absolute chaos. You should be asking yourselves why they continue to allow this to happen. And the reason is very, very simple. They're hoping for some violence from the right so they can blame it on the right. And at the same time, they don't want to turn their foot soldiers over to the Trump administration or any law enforcement for whatever rioting they may have done. I literally saw a headline, I think it was from the Oregonian, that was saying there hasn't been a riot at the Portland ICE facility in 4 months. And when I dug deeper, what they meant by this is the police never officially declared a riot, but they're trying to say, oh, there's no violence. It's perfectly safe down there. Yeah, perfectly safe with all the Antifa lunatics. Are you kidding me? You know where it's not perfectly safe? In public schools in our area. More scandals of teachers behaving badly. When we come back, you won't believe it. Is it your kid's school? We'll tell you which ones are affected in this area because apparently these issues have been going on for years. You're listening to the Ari Hoffman Show on Talk Radio 570 KVI. Mike, I mean this with all seriousness. Does a week go by around here where there isn't some kind of scandal involving the public schools? I can't think of a single week. Has there been one at all?
No.
Exactly. Every single week, there's some scandal involving the schools. Yet another one with the Seattle Public Schools. Now we got this story from King 5 News.
I would say it's destroyed his life.
At Meany Middle School, a math teacher confronted 8th grader Zach Sheikh Ibrahim about violating the school's backpack policy. A civil lawsuit says the teacher got in Zach's face, causing him to push away. That's when the teacher punched Zach in the face twice. The teacher then pushed and shook him and banged his head on the table.
So he's got PTSD, he has severe depression, he has a lot of diagnoses going on.
Surveillance video shows Zach being pushed out of the classroom, his backpack thrown out along with him. Then in the next class, a student recorded this audio, which seems to capture the teacher describing what happened, a recording that is now considered evidence in the case.
I'm sorry, I had a rough morning. I had to punch a student in the face.
Really? Why?
Yes.
Like actually?
Yes.
You're so late on. What was he doing?
Well, if you put your hands on me, I'm going to kill you. If you put your hands on me, they may have to surgically remove my foot from your posterior.
One student reported the incident to school officials, writing, "Please keep this anonymous. I am worried for my safety." Neither the teacher nor the school district immediately responded to requests for comment.
These children were terrified.
Zach's attorneys have been building a case for years.
We have over a dozen instances at Seattle Public Schools alone of him touching students. He assaulted a coworker.
The student was suspended for 15 days. Meanwhile, the teacher got a 5-day suspension. A year later, the teacher transferred to another school within the district, where new complaints emerged. He resigned in 2021 as part of a settlement agreement with the district, according to the lawsuit.
Now, I'm not defending the teacher at all, because if you listen very, very carefully at the beginning of that, the kid attacked the teacher. However, 12 incidents at one school, then more incidents at another school, yeah, they had it coming. You might have heard that in the musical Chicago. Yes, they had it coming that they didn't do anything about this teacher, especially when they have the teacher afterwards so brazenly bragging about what happened. That's crazy. I had a friend who used to teach in Seattle Public Schools, and I used to come to her classroom to speak on various topics. And one time I was in the classroom, she showed me where her panic button was to inform the cops on campus back when they had cops on campus in Seattle Public Schools that she needed help in the classroom. I said, "How many students do you have in your classroom?" And she said, "Oh, sometimes I have somewhere between 30 and 40. 30 and 40 kids against one teacher? That's insane. That's absolutely insane. No cops on campus? Now, granted, Seattle Public Schools has less students than it used to have, so maybe those ratios are far, far down. But looking back at this teacher again, incident after incident after incident, 12 times in one school, that's not one kid. That's the teacher. Then what do? A typical Seattle Public School thing. They transfer him to another school, and there's more incidents rather than saying, "Dude, you're taking a leave of absence," or "Dude, you're fired." How many times have we had stories like this? How many times? Now, there's a new report out from Fox 13 about something going on at Mercer Island High School. This is the second report from Mercer Island High School that we've had in the past few months. 2 teachers are accused of inappropriate relationships with students. And now a third is accused of possibly covering up for one of the teachers. In August, Mercer Island School District Superintendent Fred Rundle addressed allegations of sexual misconduct dating back about a decade. We covered this at the time. Quote, "Mr. Twombly's conduct with a student in 2015-2016 was appalling, beyond inappropriate, and a violation of trust and responsibility we assume as educators to safeguard our students." According to the district, former teacher Chris Twombly's case was investigated by police and sent to a prosecutor's office, but charges were not filed because it was outside the statute of limitations. Mercer Island Schools quietly removed Twombly from the classroom in December 2023 and paid him out in a separation agreement in 2024. District officials said they kept their actions quiet in an effort to protect the identity of the victim based on her own request for anonymity. Yeah, I don't believe you on that. I don't. However, earlier this year, the district found out the news had leaked. School board publicly addressed the incident at an August school board meeting. Quote, "We investigated to determine if there were additional students impacted or other victims we could identify. Neither the police nor our own investigation found evidence of other victims." This week, the district announced there were more issues. In a statement, Rundle said the district had learned of allegations of sexual misconduct against another former high school teacher, Curtis Johnston. Rundle stated he filed a police report and a child protective service report against Johnston, and the district had opened its own investigation into Johnston. Rundle also announced the current teacher is under investigation for possibly not reporting information related to Johnston's alleged misconduct, which means there may have been teachers covering for other teachers while these inappropriate relationships were going on. The teacher has been placed on forced leave. It's crazy to me, absolutely crazy to me. We keep having these discussions all the time. You know, Mike, occasionally we get stories about bad cops. We get the ones about bad cops. It happens. We cover them when it happens. But we get stories about bad teachers all the time. And why am I mentioning cops and teachers in the same sentence? It's because all these lefties always say, well, there's bad cops. There's bad cops everywhere. We need to reform the police department. And I point to the teachers and go, this is happening on the regular. On the regular. And you never talk about doing anything about the teachers. It's crazy to me how long this goes on for. Absolutely crazy to me. And yet nobody ever wants to take a look at it. Because then what are they going to do? They're going to lose their foothold on the schools. Because you have these radical activists in the classrooms. You have these sexual deviants in the classrooms. You have these violent maniacs in the classrooms. And they don't want to acknowledge they'll let anybody be a teacher these days. Do you know the screening process you have to go through to be a Seattle police officer? To be a Seattle police officer. So I got the numbers last night, which I'll have for you tomorrow up at kvi.com, of the Seattle police officer recruitment numbers. How many they actually recruit? How many don't make it through the process? How many don't make it through training? How many quit through training? How many don't make it through the mental screening process? And then so much more. So when they talk about these recruitment numbers, we should have a real discussion about what the numbers actually are. Do they have this kind of stuff for teachers? Because I got questions about how a lot of these guys actually make it past the censors. It's mind-blowing to me. Absolutely mind-blowing to me that this continues to happen every single week. There's another story. Starting to feel like every single day. Only good news to wrap up the show. Your good news headlines put a smile on your face heading into your evening commute as the sun sets beautifully over the bay. You're listening to the Ari Hoffman Show on Talk Radio 570 KVI. Only good news to wrap up another amazing episode of the Ari Hoffman Show right here on Talk Radio 570 KVI. And before we get to our good news headlines, we have a good news phone caller. We go to Carrie from Kent on the Warrior Injury Law Studio line. Carrie, what's going on?
Hey, Ari. Hey, I wanted to let you and your listeners know there is a organization, there's a Supreme Court ruling in 1952, Zorak versus Clausen, that allows organizations or churches to take public school children off of public school grounds and give them an hour of religious instruction each day. And the organization here in Washington State, it's a national organization called LifeWise Academy. And people can go to lifewiseacademy.org and they can look for their school. Excuse me. And if there's an interest in bringing that to your school, then you just sign the community interest. They need 50 people per school to sign interest. And then they will have a steering committee, and then they start the process to get that for your school. Now, this one, LifeWise Academy, is a biblical training, and people can go look at the statement of faith and see. But the Jewish people can do it too. They could have a L'chaim Academy.
L'chaim Academy would mean something else. I think the parents would be skeptical of what's going on at L'chaim Academy. You know what I mean?
Well, anyway, I'm just letting you know that a lot of times this organization gives these kids biblical education, and it really changes their attitudes and it changes the way they act. And a lot of good things have come out of it. So if people want to go check that out, it's lifewiseacademy.org.
That's fascinating. Thank you, Carrie, for that. In fact, a while ago, was it you I was talking to, or was it somebody else I was talking to? We were discussing, no, I remember there was a national organization I was working with on this. We were talking about so many kids, so many parents wanted out of the public schools, and money was a real problem. So it was a matter of how can we get scholarships for kids to go to these schools. Now, Carrie, I don't know about the Christian world, but I know in the Jewish world, some people say, oh, well, the secular education just isn't the same as like Mercer Island or Bellevue. Are you kidding me these days with that nonsense? First of all, the secular education is leaps and bounds better in the private schools than the public schools these days because we know what they're teaching in the public schools these days. But also, I really hope, maybe you could talk to the people at LifeWise because you seem to be a big supporter of them. If there was a way to have scholarships for public school kids to be transferred out to religious day schools, I think that could really be life-changing. I mean, this was something else I was discussing at the time. When the ADL got banned from Seattle public schools, I was screaming my head off at Jewish organizations. I said, stop trying to get the ADL back into these schools and start trying to get the Jewish kids out of these schools. Because if they'll ban the ADL as far left as they are, what do you think they're doing with the other religious stuff?
Exactly. Well, my nonprofit, Culture Crossroads USA, will have an education component, and that's something I could bring to our board and talk about doing.
Yeah, that would be great. And by the way, happy to help you fundraise for it as a person who has raised lots of money for the Jewish community. If we can get these kids out of the public schools, it would be my honor to help you fundraise for something like that, Carrie.
I'm glad you said that because I was going to call you an ass.
Carrie, appreciate the call. Appreciate you being part of the show. You want to be part of the show, you give us a call or text at 206-421-5757. Meanwhile, this good news headline here for you from Fox News. A mysterious 18th century coin recently resurfaced in a beach in Nantucket thanks to one determined metal detectorist. Is that what they're called? Detectorist? Okay. Hobbyist Travis Nichols found the coin, a 1782 silver Spanish 1 real, at a beach on the south shore of the island. And Nichols is known in the local community for helping others find jewelry and other metal objects they've lost on Nantucket's beaches. But his sights were always on historic coinage. He boasts more than 300 coins in his private collection. Speaking to the outlet, he said finding the rare coin was an amazing feeling. Is returning a $25,000 ring super important and community-focused? Absolutely, he said. But selfishly, finding a $30 silver coin is the top. He said the same source, he believes that. Marks on its coin. The coin was minted in Mexico City. Nichols said the coin is relatively young as Nantucket detectorists have found coins dating back to the 1650s on the island. They said the coin came from Mexico City. Somehow it sailed to New England and then probably took another ship to Nantucket. What was it doing in the South Shore? The spot where the coin was found appears to be promising. Nichols previously found a historic penny there. Notably, it was clipped to half its value. To think on Nantucket, a penny was too much money, the detectorist remarked. All in all, the hobbyist says he's interested in patrolling the spot to see what else will turn out. He says it's a popular beach spot. I've got to see what else is there. By the way, you know what I recommend they go do this stuff? This time of year, when it's cold and there aren't people on the beach and going, what'd you find? What'd you find? Nobody's going to be on the beaches of Nantucket this time of year. Go out there. See what's out there. Maybe you find some amazing treasures. The metal detectorist in Romania named Marius Maganac spoke with Fox News Digital after uncovering 1,469 ancient Roman coins. See what I'm saying? You can go out there. You can find this kind of stuff. Over the summer, a group of friends in Poland uncovered pots filled with coins and hundreds of grams of gold during a search for German V-2 rockets. Okay, guys, why were you looking for German V-2 rockets? I've got some other concerns of that. The coin people, fine. Go look for your coins. But you're looking for German rockets? I have some serious concerns. Just a few. I mean, I like that you guys throw that in at the end. Oh, I'm looking for a museum. For the museum. Don't forget to subscribe to our podcast so you can listen to us anytime, anywhere. Download the KVI app and check out KVI.com. Also, don't forget to follow my socials, Ari Hoffman Official on Facebook and Instagram, The Hofffather over on Twitter. Well, that's going to do it for us today, my friends. But fear not, we will be back tomorrow with more insane stories and more exciting guests. You've been listening to The Ari Hoffman Show on Talk Radio 570 KVI.